What's up, people? I'm Pete here with Zach,
Hello.
and this is Open Minded. And today I'm going to ask a question that I guess could be controversial, but that's the point. Should big tech companies be broken up?
I like this subject.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime.
Like the interesting thing is the houses you see around you are all solar houses.
21st Century Fox has been holding talks to sell most of the company to Walt Disney.
All right, so
By
what do
big tech
you think
companies-
about that?
By big tech companies, I really mean like the 5 tech companies that are pretty much ruling the entire country, possibly even the world. Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and Disney. And there's a New York professor named Scott Galloway. He's got some YouTube videos up as well. And I saw him talking about this, and it never really occurred to me until I heard the points that he was making about these companies, about how they're growing so big so quickly, and we're not even like batting an eye at the fact that they're pretty much dominating entire industries. Whereas, you know, capitalism at heart, capitalism is a structure of government that prevents monopolies from forming. We break up companies that are starting monopolies because the market has to be free. And it looks like we're letting these companies just grow way too strong and out of control, and nobody's doing anything about it.
Yeah, maybe, but like, what's the worst thing that happens if Disney gets so big and then it fails? Like, we just don't have Disney movies anymore.
Well, that's a possibility. I mean, I think that that's not going to happen, whereas it grows so big that it fails.
Yeah, I don't think it'll fail either, but I'm just saying. Unless some super crazy scandal happens and everybody just like boycotts Disney, which would also never happen. But
No, yeah. All of these companies, if there are no regulations to prevent them from becoming monopolies, I mean, I'm a libertarian. I don't like government involvement, but
yeah,
there needs to be some type of regulation that the market isn't free anymore if this one company buys out every single company that's starting up. It's like you should see the list of how there's like over 200 companies that Google has bought out.
yeah, but
and
you
dissolved
don't
into-
need to buy it out. I mean, you don't have to sell it. If you have a good idea, maybe it could be potentially, rival Amazon's.
Yeah, but no. So Google, Facebook, and Amazon are all going after different things.
Yeah,
Facebook
services and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But they're all dominating the markets in those services, and it's scary. In my opinion, it's scary because look at how much Amazon has grown. Let's see. I've got a photo here. So, in the past 10 years, Amazon has grown by 3,153%.
That's crazy.
And almost every other... That's Amazon, I'm sorry. Amazon has grown by over 3,000% in the past 10 years. And Amazon is like a retail, business. That's how it started. It was a retail business. It was a way to buy...
No, it was books, right?
It was a way to buy books.
The first thing ever was, I think they just sold books.
Yep. But then
And
they
then
evolved,
they
and
did
started
other
selling
things.
other things, and then they started
Yeah.
providing Amazon Prime, and then they started providing Amazon
Videos.
Video, and now
Yeah.
they're
Making
in your
movies and
homes.
shit. Yeah, now they're
in
making
your
movies.
homes. Well, Amazon Echo, it's in your home. It's listening to everything.
Oh,
that you
yeah,
say.
yeah. I forgot about those things.
They are the leading provider in voice technology, more than Google and Apple. But so knowing that okay, Amazon is worth, their market value is $569.3 billion. Walmart's market value is $291.1 billion. So with those numbers being said, who do you think would be paying more in taxes? right? The company that makes more.
Yeah,
Amazon's making $300,000 more every year, or the Amazon's
Profit.
No, Amazon's net worth is $300 billion more, almost double what Walmart is. So wouldn't you think that Amazon would be paying more in taxes than Walmart? That makes sense, right?
But
Well,
there's no stores though.
This is how much money Amazon has paid in taxes. $1 billion. This is how much Walmart has paid in taxes. $64 billion.
I was gonna say like 30 or something like that.
That's just since 2008, since Amazon really started taking off.
Yeah, but you have Walmart stores, you have Walmart whatever's. There's no like Amazon store, so like their taxes, their imprint, like is less than on the American soil. So, like their shit's in the internet, so you can't tax them for that. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate here.
No, you're right. That does make sense. Like, Walmart's going to be paying more in taxes. They're going to be paying like property taxes. I think that's only taxes on the revenue, though.
Well, then that's another thing. Yeah.
If it is only taxes on the revenue, then it's a big problem, because a company that size that's barely paying taxes is what's making the middle class shrink. I mean, they're offering.
Is the middle class shrinking though? I don't know if that's true.
First of all, big tech companies don't promote job growth because they promote automation, which I'm all for. I think that's a good thing. But that is shrinking the middle class. The lack of jobs, the more automation. Think about how many. So Apple not only is. Okay, hold on. Let me look up the definition of a monopoly, and that way we can actually compare what these companies do to what a monopoly does.
A monopoly, I think it's like the game where you want to own everything.
That's probably accurate.
Like, I'm not sure if you could have an. Yeah, you can, I guess. I was gonna say maybe not. You wouldn't be a monopoly if you were the only people that sold paper. You would have to also, I think, control, things that make paper or shit like that.
You need if you control the distribution and the manufacturing of
that's
both
a monopoly.
Goods and services, then you control the entire market. Exclusive control of a commodity or service in a particular market that makes or control that makes possible the manipulation of prices. So they might not be the only place on the market right now, but once they are, they can charge anything that they want. But Apple makes software, they make their own Apple products, and they sell their own Apple products.
Do they? I think they use Samsung. Like an Apple phone is a Samsung phone with an Apple logo.
No.
You sure?
Samsung has a contract with Android. Apple makes their own. That's why you have to go to an Apple store to get your shit fixed.
Well, I think that's just because Apple's a bunch of Nazis.
Well,
but like the battery, the battery, like I don't think they have Apple batteries. It's a Samsung battery, I think.
Well, how do you know? Have you ever opened up an Apple phone, or do they seal it shut so that only the manufacturer can open it, so that us consumers?
Well, yeah, but now the S8 does the same thing. It's a sealed phone. You can't undo anything.
Well, but they sell their own computers. They sell their own. And they have a specific manufacturer that they only Apple works with that makes their Apple products. Like Apple, it's an Apple product. It's not like outside and inside. So that's they're trying to control that market, But and then now Amazon is making movies, and they're also selling movies, and they're also making goods and services and selling goods and services, because what did they just buy out? They bought out Whole Foods. So they're going to be dominating the grocery business. They're looking to buy out, I think, either Carl's Jr. or Jack in the Box, so they're going to dominate the fast food business. And then they're trying to buy out Nordstrom, so they're going to dominate the clothing business.
Yeah, but then imagine all the things he wants to do are good. Then you're like, oh, that's actually a good idea.
It's good, but it's not good for business. And the whole point of capitalism is there needs to be competition in the
Well,
markets.
I think I've probably gone to Jack in the Box once in my life. I know what you're saying.
That's not
Like,
the point.
where's he gonna stop? You know,
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. But I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So you're definitely on the fence where, or I mean, on this side of the fence where it's bad.
I think that I love all of these products. I have an Apple phone. I have an Amazon Alexa. I go on Facebook. I use Google. Like, it's all integrated into our lives. And I feel like most everybody has at least 3 or 2 out of those 4 things. What about Disney? Everywhere you look is Disney. Disney owns Fox. Disney owns LucasArts. Disney owns Marvel. Disney owns ESPN. So even if you're not a nerd but you love sports, you're still watching Disney. Disney owns ESPN.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
Yep. So like, at what point are they going to dominate the entire market? And then they can say, like, look at Disney movies already. A brand new movie comes out, it's $15.99. You see a Disney movie from 1990, it's $20. They already are driving up prices because of their brand. Imagine if they are making every single movie, like every movie, no matter what studio it's being made from, has to go through the Disney powertrain because Disney owns literally all of Hollywood.
Then we're just gonna pirate it.
That's what it looks like. It's going.
Maybe.
Apple.
I think
Google.
it's kind of alright because there'll be enough competition. Like, there's Netflix. Like,
There's no.
What's
That's
another
the
good
point.
one?
They're buying out all the competition. They're buying out all the competition. Who was
Yeah,
a
but
competitor
then-
to Facebook? Instagram. Guess who bought out Instagram? Facebook bought out Instagram. And then Snapchat came up and they were like, oh, Snapchat's another competitor of ours. Let's buy them out. But Snapchat said, no, we're going to try to make it on our own. And then Facebook killed Snapchat with all of its power.
yeah, it did. It just made Snapchat on your Facebook now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, we would have given you $3 billion for your company, but now you're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Any competitor,
But
if you want to start a tech
could-
company, try to go
I'm
up
good
against
that's-
Facebook.
I want Snapchat and Facebook and everything to fail. I don't like them.
Well, okay, but they're, even if you don't like them, they're a huge part of society nowadays. And everybody has a Facebook page. Even if you don't go on your Facebook page, people who don't have Facebook pages, they deleted theirs because they used to have it. It's not like just someone's like, I've never even had Facebook. What is that?
Yeah. But then, like, even with, like, video games, like, you have Microsoft, you have Sony, you have the, like, side projects, you have phone games, you have so many different video games, and, like, you can't really, because there'll always be 2 sides. Like, there's a Burger King and a McDonald's, or Microsoft, or Xbox, Sony, I don't know, Pixar and DreamWorks.
Republican or Democrat?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. There's
So
only
if anything,
two
it'll
strongest.
always be 2 monopolies, if that makes sense.
That's called a duopoly.
A duopoly?
Yep.
Well, that would make sense.
And it's not as bad, I don't think, but it's still not a free market if there's a duopoly, because there's 2 giant companies that can still, they could partner together and say,
Exactly,
hey, let's
yeah.
both drive up, you can benefit and we can benefit. We'll just both drive up sales or drive up costs. I mean, not that that would happen or is happening, but that's a possibility if there's a duopoly. And we don't want any one corporation to become stronger or more influential than the government, because a company isn't a publicly owned. Even if it's a public company, like, there's somebody running it that I didn't elect into it there, and maybe I don't want fucking cyborgs walking around and do a bunch of shit. I watched iRobot recently, so.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that part of it. But then
I'm
I
thinking about it
imagine
from like an economy standpoint as well. Like, wouldn't you want to maybe start your own business one day? Like, what avenues can you go in? You can go down manufacturing, but you can't, because you can't compete with the big manufacturers. You can go and even if you gain any steam, somebody will buy you out before you can even like get big, and it'll probably
but then you got bought out. Then, like, you know what I mean? You could try and maybe make more money, or you could get bought out. Like, they're only buying you out because you made a good product, so it's still driving innovation. You know. Like, it's still driving innovation as far as having a monopoly because they need to stay on top. Like, they're not a monopoly if someone else is making something that people like more, because then the other person's getting things. So there's still always going to be people trying to compete. If they buy them out, the technology is still progressing. And that's what I care about more.
Yeah. I mean... That is a good point. But you know what else drives innovation is competition. So, I mean, if everyone's competing to try to get bought out by Google, maybe that could drive innovation, but wouldn't it be more innovative to say, I want to start my own company and make a name for myself? Like, I want to be the next Bill Gates. Like, if you start a company and then when you just start getting successful, you sell out, no one's going to know your name. They're going to know the person who bought you. If you want to be an Elon Musk, you need to stay in your company. If you want to be a Jeff Bezos, you need to stay with your company. Like,
the more money a company has, like, you could have a startup that has a good innovative product to compete with something else. But let's just say they were a bigger company and didn't get bought out and had more money to make an even better product. Like, maybe they had the design or whatever to make it smaller and better, but they only had the money to make it, this big and this good, which is still innovative to this one product. But because it's a monopoly, they didn't have enough money to make a better product. But then, I don't know, they get the money for buying it out, and then immediately, I don't know then, because then they would buy the patent too.
Well, look at car companies. Like, car companies, there's not a monopoly on car companies, but for the longest time, it was almost impossible to start a new car company, and Tesla kind of came along and messed with the whole equation. And it was also after, a lot of the car companies went bankrupt and got bought out by the government. They became weaker, and it allowed like another smaller company to come in and make a big wave in the market. But for the longest time, electric cars have been around since the 90s, but we never heard about them because the big oil car companies bought out the patents for the electric cars before they could gain any steam and crushed them. And that's what... Or integrated their best designs into their own cars, but still they had an agenda. And that's what these big tech companies seem to be doing with smaller tech companies. They see something that they can something that they could use and integrate into their system. That's what they did with Snapchat. Or B, that's a competitor of us, and we could it would be less expensive to buy them out now than to lose money from them later on. And it would also be less expensive to buy them out than to just crush them from the inside out. That's why they were trying to buy out Snapchat.
One monopoly with cars is you could only buy new cars from dealerships.
Yep.
You can't buy a new car, like you can't go to Chevy.com and buy a car from them online. They have to sell their car to a dealership, which makes the price go up.
I think that's in place to prevent monopolies, though, because if a car company built I don't know.
I don't like that one. I don't like it either. Because basically they could sell the car for, whatever amount, they want. But it's the dealership that's making up the price. Like, it only costs them, like, just say like a crazy Corvette, just say it's worth $100,000. It's not $100,000, no. It only costs them probably, I don't really know, maybe 20,000, so they could sell it at 40, and double their fucking profit off of it or whatever.
Actually, dude, I know somebody who works at a dealership, and the dealers don't make money on the car sales. They literally can buy a car for $30,000 from the dealership or from the manufacturer, and then sell it for $30,000 and $30,100. They only need to make $100 profit from the car sale, because what comes with the car sale is the warranty, which they make $3,000 on a warranty, and the maintenance costs, because people who buy a brand new car would rather go back to the dealership to get their oil change, even if it's a little bit more money, because it's reliable and that's where you bought the car, and then you have a paper trail, and just the value of the car stays higher if you continue.
Yeah, as long as you have a paper trail, yeah.
So that's where dealerships get their money, and I think that you buying a car from a dealership is made so that to prevent monopolies from happening, because if the car manufacturers are making the cars and selling the cars and repairing the cars, then they're ruling every single step of the process in that market.
Yeah.
And then they could eventually charge mad cheap for their cars because they're saving money somehow or making more money somehow. And then eventually all other car companies will go out of business and they'll be the only ones, and they can charge $1 million for a car.
Well, that's one thing. Maybe they are doing that for cars that are worth $30,000. But I can't imagine, a pickup truck that you could get for just say $30,000 or $40,000 or something like that has cost less to make than a Corvette. There's less material in a Corvette. How can a truck cost less than a Corvette? I understand the technology that went into it, but that technology basically already paid for itself. It's like when they have like toll booths for bridges and shit, you put that toll booth up for a week, it's already made the money that it costs to make the bridge, but they keep it up for fucking 30 years and they're making.
Yeah, and they keep raising the prices too.
Yeah.
And that's because.
But that's just my argument about that,
Yeah.
There's no way it cost whatever, like $80,000 to make a fucking Corvette. There's no way it costs that much. Most of it's automated. Like, how can the robots work whether it's on a pickup truck or a Corvette? You just type in, move this screw, weld here, blah 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 blah.
No, some of those cars, the more expensive cars, are made with better materials.
Yeah, better material, but like it's not costing that much more. I mean,
Yeah.
What's the difference between this type of steel or aluminum and then this type of steel or aluminum or carbon fiber? Carbon fiber is really cheap.
Yeah, but when you're making something like with so many moving parts as a vehicle, it can get expensive even just from going up in quality of the materials. But regardless of that, I want to go back to the big tech companies because I think that when I think it was in the 90s, Microsoft, either late 90s or early 2000s, Microsoft tried to buy out a company, another tech company, and the government stopped them because they said, this is beginning to look like a monopoly. You're buying out another tech company, and we don't want you to have too many hands in this part of the market. So the government stopped that from happening. And that regulation allowed Google, another tech company, to rise through Microsoft and past Microsoft to they're worth more now, or at least they're close. But that government regulation to stop Microsoft from dominating that market allowed other tech companies to rise up, and those tech companies have now surpassed Microsoft.
Yeah, but about breaking them up, like how do you break up a company legally that is a privately owned company that technically hasn't done anything wrong yet?
In the 30s and 40s and 50s, movie studios, they ran the entire movie making industry. So they bought the writers, and the writers worked for the studio, and the writers wrote certain, scripts. And then the studios hired the actors, and they were on salary, and the studios had their own studio to make the movie, and they made the movie all in-house, and then they owned the movie theaters. So they were making...
See, that's the That's the key right there, owning the theaters.
That's
Because anybody can make buy a camera and do their thing and maybe pay to put it in a movie theater. But if they own the theaters and they're like, no, nobody but ours,
so
then that's a crazy monopoly right there.
that's a monopoly. And the government in the 50s realized that the studios were too powerful, and they broke them up. And they said, studios, you can only be a studio. You have to hire another company to make the movie, and they could use your studio space. And you can't own the theaters anymore. So all the studios had to sell their theaters, and that's how they were broken up. But they're still around. Studios are still around. So these tech companies, they would just have to limit them to only one, thing, and then from there they could branch out and probably make 11 different companies each.
But I'm saying, like, if you wanted to break up Amazon, like, how do you do it legally, and where do you do it? Like, do you make it so Amazon Video is its own company and Amazon this is its own company? Because it is, like, from what you're saying, getting big, and it isn't a monopoly because there's other ventures you can go through online or whatever, Netflix, all these different things. But let's just say, for the point of argument, those things didn't exist, but not because it bought those out, just nobody did it yet.
Yeah.
And you're saying you're going to break it up. Could you legally break it up? It's a privately owned business. They've done nothing wrong. Like, I don't know.
I think that through the laws and regulations that are in place to prevent monopolies, I think that you can break them up to a certain extent, and I think that you could probably make multiple, like 10 or 11 companies just from like Amazon alone, because they're buying companies left and right. And I don't know if they would do that. I don't know if they would like break them up and say, okay, you're not just one company anymore, you're 11. Or if they would say, hey, Amazon, choose one of these things and you can dominate that, but then you have to sell your like production line to another company and allow them to like have some type of a competition in the market, or break the shares off and sell them evenly to like 3 or 4 other companies and allow them to get their hands in the market. I don't know if that's a good thing. It doesn't sound like a free market idea.
Yeah.
But it's preventing something that looks like it's inevitable, and a monopoly is also not a free market idea. So you gotta choose the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, I think see, that's one thing too. If he's doing everything good and making good decisions and trying to be an awesome, I don't know, CEO, and he's also like creating a monopoly, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think the government should only step in once it starts to go negative, once he starts making things that, I don't know, just prices go up because he owns it, If he's continuing steady prices, or even maybe prices go down, or maybe keeps it like a free market kind of thing where older things cost less, brand new awesome things, cost a little bit more, but then eventually they'll cost less because newer things keep coming out. If he keeps it going but is also a monopoly, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think when he starts abusing that power that's when maybe you could keep the company the same, but he's kicked out. He's not a CEO anymore.
I feel like being proactive is better than being reactive, though. If you allow a company to get so powerful, you might say that now, and then they get so powerful that there's nothing the government can do about it because the company makes more money than the government does. Right now, it's either Google or Amazon. I'm not quite sure which one, but their GDP is second in the world, only to the United States, and it's more than every other country. It's a ridiculous amount of money that they're making. They're making more than countries. So at what point can they be too powerful to where even though they're doing good now, they can't,
because the government could just be like, they don't have a military. I think that's the biggest difference, maybe. Like, we could literally just, with the military, go to the guy and be like, yo, you are ruining shit. You're done. You're out of here.
Who's getting elected, though? Who's getting elected into office right now? People who used to work for those companies.
Maybe people get money from those companies. Awesome. Go.
People who are getting bribed by these companies to
Yeah.
give them incentives, and or they used to work for that company, and they said, like the chairman of the FCC, the one who just repealed the net neutrality regulation that allowed the web, the net, to be completely free to all. That guy used to work for Verizon. And so now I'm sure he got a lot of money from Verizon to make that call, because he was the deciding factor. It was 2-2 and he was the fifth.
But I kind of like net neutrality. Like, it's free.
That's what I'm saying.
System.
Net neutrality is a good thing. I forgot his name, but he repealed it, and he doesn't want net neutrality to happen. He wants the cable companies to be able to make more money, because then his pockets will grow. And like literally.
Well, what's the deciding argument about it? Why not net neutrality?
He does not want net neutrality because then the cable companies, you know how you can't just go on any channel on cable. You have to buy tiers of packages, like I just want the basic package, or I want the sports package, or I want the HBO Supreme package. That's how your internet services will be if net neutrality is gone. So the cable companies can say, oh, you want the Facebook package? Okay, that's our cheapest package. Oh, you want the Netflix package? That's an extra $30 a month. Oh, you want the Pornhub package?
No.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
No, I swear to God, they're going to be able to do that now because of this guy who used to work for Verizon, who's getting his pockets filled, because that's the type of people who are running our country, are the people who are being bribed by the rich tech people.
But that's always been.
I know, but that's what I'm
every
saying.
country, and we've already made it illegal. We've already made it illegal. So, like, I don't know how to make it any more illegal.
Mark Zuckerberg is running for president in 2020.
Oh my God!
I mean,
really?
He hasn't officially announced it yet, but everything that he's doing is in training to become president or to become a candidate for president. I
don't like him.
And he's watching what he says, and he's dressing more professionally, and he's investing in space travel, and he's doing so many moves. He's making so many moves.
Even though he probably is really smart.
But
he's a great businessman too. And he probably has some sort of database about like people's thoughts, so he actually does know what probably people want.
Yes, but I also think that I don't know if his end goal is in the right place. I think that he's more concerned with getting power and being known as somebody, kind of like our current president. I think he's more concerned with getting in power and being that person than for changing the world in a positive way. Even if he changes in a negative way, his name will go down in history forever as one of the presidents of the United States. And I don't think, creating a Facebook qualifies him for a presidency.
Yeah. Well, I don't want him to be president anyway. I don't like his SJW shit. Anybody who's like an SJW crazy weirdo fucking... Like, I don't want them in control of shit, because they basically want to stop things from happening. One of my favorite presidents that could ever happen would be a president who takes away presidential and government's power, and besides doing that, does nothing. Does a few things, presidential things, but
okay. But hold on a second. Let's not generalize all social justice warriors with the extremist SJWs who make outrageous claims at movies and entertainment and stuff like that. There are
who's an actual warrior?
Well,
are people going into rings and declaring things on victory?
Just like you wouldn't want anyone to generalize, a straight white male. Not all straight white males are extreme racist Nazis, but that's the generalization. It's a stereotype, and not all people who are standing up for social justice and equality between all races and genders. That doesn't mean that they're all categorized in that SJW extremist group that are attacking, entertainers and all these things for microaggressions, and politicians for all these little things that really they're just looking for something to be mad about.
There's no such thing as a microaggression.
So that's just all I'm saying. You shouldn't generalize all social justice warriors. But
as crazy.
Exactly. So,
well, I don't know. As long as they have certain. Well, we're on a different subject.
I know,
that's a different one. I'd like to do that one too.
Yeah, and I'd like to actually bring some people on for that one, because it would be nice. We're two, white males. We're two straight white males.
Are we? White males?
So anyway, back to tech companies, because that was a little tangent. The idea that these big companies are growing too powerful is kind of scaring me. And as much as I don't want to tread down the line of more government regulation, I think that something needs to be done, or they need to be watched a little bit more, or we need to have people in the government who aren't directly related to those companies and are not going to make money off of those companies' success. At the very least. It's such a hard subject to talk about, because who's to say what will work and what won't work when it comes to regulation and the market?
Well, that's why I would say, as long as a monopoly is going in the right direction, let it be. As soon as it starts doing, power hungry stuff, that's when you come in and you put a hold on stuff and you start making things up. But because you're not going to see what the actual problem is until it happens.
Well, I feel like maybe you're being very optimistic about the idea, and I'm being very skeptical about the idea. I'm very pessimistic. So what do you guys think? Let us know. Drop us a line at openmindedepisodes@gmail.com. Do you like what all these companies are doing and the direction they're going? Do you agree that maybe they should be stopped at some point before they rule the entire Earth? I don't know. Jeff Bezos for president. President of the moon.
First thing on the moon will be a giant fucking factory.
Giant Amazon factory run by drones. All right. Bye.
Later.